By the summer of 1942, the Atlantic Ocean was a battlefield unlike any other. German U-boats, stealthy and lethal, prowled the shipping lanes with terrifying efficiency, striking fear into the hearts of Allied sailors. Each convoy that crossed the Atlantic from North America to Britain was a lifeline under siege, carrying fuel, ammunition, food, and equipment critical to the war effort. For German submarine crews, success seemed absolute. They had perfected the art of stealth and surprise, and the Allies struggled to defend their convoys. Thousands of merchant ships had already been sunk, and Britain's survival hung by a thread. Yet amid this desperate contest, an innovation the Germans never anticipated would overturn their dominance. A small, unassuming device known as the high-frequency direction finder, nicknamed Huff-Duff. It was not a weapon in the conventional sense, no torpedo, no gun, no mine. It was a shoebox-sized box capable of detecting the direction of radio signals emitted by U-boats, instantly locating submarines even in the vast expanse of the Atlantic. The irony was profound. German crews had relied on radio transmissions to coordinate attacks, believing that the ocean's immensity shielded them from discovery. Yet those same signals, intended as a tool of command and communication, became a beacon betraying their every move. At the height of U-boat effectiveness, the Kriegsmarine's Wolfpacks could strike in unison, sinking dozens of ships in a single night. Commanders relied on radio to report convoy sightings, direct coordinated attacks, and communicate with headquarters in Germany. These transmissions were essential for operational success. But Huff-Duff, developed by British engineers and quickly deployed on Allied ships and aircraft, turned every message into a vulnerability. In real time, Allied operators could detect the exact bearing of a signal and triangulate the submarine's location. A crew that had once been virtually untouchable could now be hunted from above and below. The consequences were immediate and dramatic. U-boat losses, which had been minimal during the early campaigns of 1939-1941, began to climb. Convoys once vulnerable to annihilation could now maneuver, defend, and even counterattack. German submariners, trained to believe in the invincibility of their technology and tactics, were stunned. Officers later admitted in post-war interviews that the very system they had trusted, their radio network, was their undoing. The success of Huff-Duff was not simply the result of hardware. It was a combination of technological innovation, tactical adaptation, and intelligence coordination. Operators were trained to act in seconds, detecting signals, plotting positions, and directing Allied forces to intercept. The Allies had also cracked portions of the German Enigma code, allowing them to anticipate patrol routes and strategic objectives. Together, these tools created a synergistic effect: technology feeding intelligence, intelligence guiding action, and action neutralizing what had seemed invincible. Historically, Huff-Duff represents one of the most decisive shifts in naval warfare during World War II. While battleships and aircraft carriers often dominate narratives, it was this small detection device that undermined Germany's underwater empire. U-boat crews, who had once laughed at the idea of being detected in the vast Atlantic, now faced a relentless adversary capable of predicting their movements. Every radio transmission was a potential death sentence. The drama of this story lies not in large fleets clashing on open seas, but in the hidden war of technology, nerves, and calculation. A tiny device quietly humming aboard an Allied ship or aircraft altered the strategic calculus of the Atlantic. German officers, accustomed to commanding from the shadows, found themselves forced into silence. Their very communications, the backbone of their tactical advantage, had become a liability. By late 1942, Allied morale had shifted. Convoys that had once feared annihilation now moved with greater confidence. Huff-Duff had made stealth costly. forcing the Germans to rethink strategy while simultaneously empowering escorts and aircrews to strike preemptively. In effect, a single shoebox-sized piece of equipment had changed the course of the war at sea. The story of Huff-Duff is also a story of human ingenuity triumphing against expectation. German submarine crews never imagined that a small box, paired with skilled operators and clever strategy, could end their dominance. And yet, history shows that it did. The device did not fire a torpedo or drop bombs, but it reshaped the battlefield, shifting the advantage from predator to prey. It stands as a testament to the fact that in warfare, innovation, intelligence, and precision can outweigh brute force. As we explore the Battle of the Atlantic, the rise and fall of U-boat supremacy, and the role of this tiny transformative device, one truth becomes clear. The greatest threat to a powerful weapon may not be another weapon, but the unexpected application of knowledge and ingenuity. The German U-boat fleet would never again rule the Atlantic with impunity. And it all began with one tiny box, humming quietly, changing the fate of the ocean and the course of the war. By the outbreak of World War II in September 1939, the German Kriegsmarine had invested heavily in a fleet of submarines designed to disrupt Allied maritime supply lines. Following the restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles after World War I, Germany's naval expansion had been limited, but by the late 1930s, a new generation of U-boats, the Type 7 and Type 9 classes, had been perfected. These vessels were fast, maneuverable, and armed with powerful torpedoes capable of sinking large merchant ships and lightly defended naval vessels. The U-boat fleet was a strategic cornerstone of Germany's plan to wage economic warfare against Britain and, later, the Soviet Union. In the early months of the war, German submariners achieved near-total dominance over the Atlantic. Their tactic, known as the Wolfpack, involved groups of submarines patrolling the sea lanes in coordinated formations. When a lone U-boat sighted a convoy, it would radio headquarters with the convoy's location. Other submarines would converge under the command of the BDU, Befehlshaber der Unterseeboot Commander of Submarines, launching a coordinated night attack designed to overwhelm defenses. These operations were devastatingly effective. By mid-1940, U-boats had sunk thousands of tons of Allied shipping, including critical supplies of fuel, food, and weaponry. The success of these operations was not accidental. German crews were highly trained, often rigorously schooled in navigation, torpedo targeting, and stealth tactics. Officers were expected to operate independently, making decisions in the vast and unpredictable ocean. At the same time, technological innovations such as hydrophones, snorkels, and improved periscopes enhanced operational effectiveness. By 1941, U-boat attacks were sinking more than 1 million tons of Allied shipping per month, threatening Britain's capacity to sustain itself. Radio communication was both a strength and an unseen weakness. U-boats relied on Morse code transmissions to coordinate attacks and report convoy positions. These communications allowed commanders to direct multiple submarines toward a target simultaneously, creating the deadly Wolfpack effect. German officers assumed these transmissions were safe from detection, hidden in the immense expanses of the Atlantic. The radio network was seen as essential to operational success. Without it, submarines could not effectively concentrate their attacks. However, the German strategy contained an inherent vulnerability. While U-boat crews were trained to avoid detection by enemy ships and aircraft, the radio transmissions themselves emitted signals that could be intercepted. At the time, the Germans underestimated the technological sophistication of the Allies' listening capabilities. Allied engineers had been quietly developing systems to detect and locate these signals, anticipating that the U-boats' reliance on radio could be exploited. The early dominance of U-boats was not limited to the Atlantic. German submarines extended their operations to the Arctic convoys supplying the Soviet Union, the Caribbean shipping lanes transporting oil and raw materials, and the South Atlantic routes feeding Allied Africa campaigns. Across these theaters, the U-boats' combination of stealth, firepower, and tactical coordination made them formidable adversaries. For months, the Allied Naval Command struggled to protect convoys, relying on minimal escort ships, limited aircraft patrols, and convoy routing strategies that often fell short. U-boat crews were fiercely loyal and highly motivated. The German Navy emphasized discipline, resilience, and tactical ingenuity. Yet, despite their training, crews were operating under conditions of extreme isolation and psychological strain. Long patrols, confined spaces, and the constant threat of depth-charge attacks tested mental and physical endurance. Success in this environment depended on flawless coordination, precisely what radio communication enabled. Historians note that the early dominance of U-boats was a combination of advanced technology, tactical innovation, and Allied unpreparedness. Britain's initial naval strategy underestimated the threat posed by coordinated Wolfpack attacks, and the scarcity of long-range aircraft left gaps in the Atlantic, creating the so-called mid-Atlantic gap where convoys were vulnerable to unopposed U-boat strikes. This period cemented the U-boat's reputation as nearly invincible. Yet the seeds of their undoing were already present. The reliance on radio for coordination, the predictable patterns of patrol routes, and the overconfidence born of early success created vulnerabilities that Allied intelligence and technology would exploit. By mid-1941, the Kriegsmarine had achieved operational mastery, but they remained unaware that a new tool, high-frequency direction finding, Huff-Duff, was being deployed against them. This tiny technical innovation, combined with code breaking and tactical adaptation, would gradually strip the U-boats of the dominance they once wielded across the Atlantic. Thus, the stage was set for a historic reversal. German submariners, confident in their superiority, were unknowingly transmitting the very signals that would lead the Allies to them. The Wolfpack, which had inspired fear across the ocean, would soon face a new predator. Intelligence guided by technology capable of turning every radio message into a beacon of doom. The era of U-boat supremacy, which seemed unassailable, was about to meet its first major challenge, one that would ultimately transform the Battle of the Atlantic and alter the course of the war. By 1940, the German U-boat threat had reached alarming proportions. Convoys crossing the Atlantic faced relentless attacks, and Allied losses threatened Britain's very survival. In response, the British Admiralty sought new methods to counter the undersea menace. Among the most decisive innovations was the high-frequency direction finder, commonly known as Huff-Duff. This unassuming device, compact enough to fit in a small shipboard cabin, would prove to be a technological turning point. Huff-Duff's origins trace back to pre-war experiments in radio detection. British engineers had long studied the possibility of triangulating enemy transmissions to determine their location. Early radio direction finding systems existed, but they were slow, cumbersome, and inaccurate. By the late 1930s, engineers at the Admiralty Research Laboratory and private firms such as Marconi had developed improved techniques, allowing rapid detection of high-frequency signals, particularly those used by German submarines. Huff-Duff, as it was nicknamed, represented the culmination of this research, a system that could detect the direction of a radio signal almost instantly. Unlike previous direction-finding systems, Huff-Duff did not require prolonged signal interception. U-boat transmissions, often brief bursts sent to report convoy sightings or receive orders, could now betray their location in a matter of seconds. Operators trained to interpret the bearings could triangulate positions by combining readings from two or more stations or mobile platforms. The speed of detection was revolutionary. Where older systems might have taken hours, Huff-Duff could achieve results in moments, often before a submarine had time to dive to safety. Deployment of Huff-Duff began along the British coast and on naval escort vessels. Coastal stations equipped with multiple direction finders could provide triangulated data across vast areas of the Atlantic. Later, mobile units installed on destroyers, corvettes, and aircraft extended the system's reach even into the mid-Atlantic gap, previously a haven for U-boats. The strategic implications were immediate. A submarine could no longer surface and transmit without risking rapid detection and counterattack. Huff-Duff's effectiveness was enhanced by the integration of intelligence from Bletchley Park, where British cryptanalysts had begun breaking portions of the German Enigma code. The combination of intercepted encrypted messages and real-time direction finding allowed Allied commanders to not only locate U-boats, but anticipate their movements and predict convoy targets. This synergy between technology and intelligence became a cornerstone of the anti-submarine effort. The technical design of Huff-Duff was deceptively simple. It employed rotating antennas and signal processing circuits to determine the azimuth of a radio source. Skilled operators could monitor multiple frequencies, tracking U-boat transmissions as they occurred. The device's portability meant it could be deployed on small escort ships, providing tactical coverage where larger installations could not reach. Over time, Huff-Duff became standard equipment on nearly every vessel involved in convoy protection, as well as on reconnaissance aircraft patrolling the Atlantic. Operationally, Huff-Duff forced German U-boat crews into a dilemma: radio for coordination and risk detection, or remain silent and lose the ability to execute Wolfpack tactics effectively. Historian Clay Blair, in his seminal work Hitler's U-Boat War, noted that Huff-Duff was arguably the single most important factor in blunting the effectiveness of the U-boat arm in the Atlantic. German communications officers, previously confident in the secrecy and safety of their transmissions, soon discovered that every radio message was a potential threat to their survival. Early successes of Huff-Duff were dramatic. In several documented convoy encounters during 1942, the device allowed escorts to detect multiple submarines before they could coordinate attacks. Depth charges and air patrols, guided by precise triangulated positions, destroyed or forced U-boats to flee. Survivors from these engagements later testified to their astonishment. They had assumed the Atlantic's vastness was a shield, but the Allies were now capable of pinpointing them with alarming precision. Huff-Duff was not without limitations. Bad weather, equipment failures, or inexperienced operators could reduce accuracy. German commanders soon recognized the threat and attempted to adapt by reducing transmission time, using coded bursts, or operating at irregular frequencies. Nevertheless, Huff-Duff maintained a decisive advantage throughout the Battle of the Atlantic, systematically eroding the U-boat's early dominance. In essence, Huff-Duff transformed the strategic landscape. What had once been an invisible hunter of the seas became increasingly vulnerable. The device exemplified the intersection of human ingenuity, technological innovation, and operational strategy. A small, portable, unarmed box had achieved what massive naval fleets and vast resources could not. It neutralized the previously untouchable U-boat threat. By the end of 1942, German submarine commanders were operating under constant fear of detection. Their tactical advantage, built on stealth and communication, was compromised. The Wolfpack tactic was still used, but its effectiveness was diminishing. Huff-Duff had shifted the balance, demonstrating that in modern warfare, information and technology could outweigh firepower and tradition. The lesson was clear. A tiny box, silent and unassuming, had altered the course of the Atlantic War. German U-boat crews, who had once imagined themselves masters of the ocean, were now exposed to a threat they had never foreseen. In the coming months, Huff-Duff would prove essential in turning the tide against the Kriegsmarine, changing the fate of convoys, crews, and ultimately, the war itself. By mid-1942, the Atlantic Ocean had become the testing ground of one of the most critical battles of World War II. German U-boats, once nearly untouchable, now faced a growing challenge. The Allies had begun to fight back with technology, intelligence, and tactical innovation. Central to this shift was the high-frequency direction finder, or Huff-Duff, which allowed escorts and aircraft to locate enemy submarines from the faintest radio signals. The previously unchecked predator of the sea was gradually becoming the hunted. The effect on convoy operations was immediate. Allied escort groups, previously reacting to attacks only after ships were hit, could now preemptively detect U-boat positions. Destroyers, corvettes, and frigates were equipped with Huff-Duff, providing real-time directional data to command centers. Triangulation from multiple ships or shore-based stations allowed accurate plotting of submarine positions. Commanders could then adjust convoy routes, deploy depth charges, or vector an aircraft for interception. The Wolfpack tactic, which had struck terror into merchant crews, was increasingly blunted by these countermeasures. One of the earliest successful applications of Huff-Duff occurred during Convoy ON 115 in May 1942. This convoy, traveling from North America to Britain, was shadowed by a pack of 6 U-boats. For the first time, Allied escorts used Huff-Duff readings to determine the submarine's bearings almost instantly. Within hours, aircraft patrolling the Atlantic and escort destroyers had located and engaged multiple U-boats. At least one was sunk, and others were forced to retreat. German survivors later recounted their astonishment, noting that the Allies seemed to appear out of nowhere, almost anticipating their moves. The very communication that had enabled Wolfpack coordination had betrayed them. Air patrols were also transformed. Long-range reconnaissance aircraft, equipped with direction-finding equipment, could detect surfaced U-boats that were attempting to transmit sightings or receive orders. Previously, U-boats had operated with relative impunity in the mid-Atlantic Gap, a stretch beyond air cover where merchant convoys were particularly vulnerable. With Huff-Duff, these areas were no longer safe. Aircraft could vector escort ships to the target or engage directly with depth charges, significantly reducing U-boat operational freedom. The psychological impact on German crews was profound. For years, U-boat officers had been confident in the stealth of their communications. Now every radio transmission carried mortal risk. Experienced commanders were forced into a dilemma: maintain communication to coordinate attacks or remain silent and risk operational chaos. Morale began to erode as losses increased and the ocean, once a vast safe haven, seemed ever more hostile. The strategic use of Huff-Duff also highlighted the importance of Allied coordination and intelligence. Integration. Direction-finding stations along the British coastline worked in tandem with naval command centers and air squadrons, creating a seamless network capable of rapid response. Triangulated positions were cross-referenced with decrypted Enigma intelligence from Bletchley Park, allowing commanders to anticipate U-boat movements rather than simply react. This synergy between technology and intelligence marked a new era in anti-submarine warfare. One particularly illustrative engagement occurred with Convoy PQ-17, an Arctic convoy bound for the Soviet Union. Although the convoy suffered heavy losses due to Luftwaffe attacks, Huff-Duff operators successfully intercepted and located multiple U-boats that were attempting to shadow the fleet. By rerouting escorts and providing real-time positional updates, several merchant vessels avoided potential torpedo strikes. The incident underscored a growing reality: U-boats could no longer act with impunity, and even highly skilled crews were vulnerable to technology-assisted strategy. By the end of 1942, the cumulative effect of Huff-Duff and improved convoy tactics was evident. Monthly losses of Allied shipping began to decrease, while U-boat losses increased sharply. For the first time since the start of the Atlantic campaign, German submariners faced a sustained and effective countermeasure that neutralized their early dominance. Historian Clay Blair notes that the period marked the beginning of the end for the Wolfpack's invincibility, emphasizing that technology, rather than brute force, was reshaping the battle. The success of Huff-Duff was not merely a technical achievement. It was a psychological and strategic game-changer. The Allies had transformed the Atlantic from a dangerous, unpredictable expanse into a monitored and controlled battlefield. Merchant mariners, once defenseless against submarine attacks, now sailed with the knowledge that their escorts could detect and respond to threats more effectively. Meanwhile, U-boat crews operated under constant anxiety, aware that each transmission might reveal their location to an unseen enemy. In essence, Huff-Duff leveled the playing field, turning German advantage into vulnerability. It demonstrated a fundamental principle of warfare. Information, speed, and coordination can overcome numerical superiority and tactical audacity. The tide of the Atlantic War was turning, not with massive fleets alone, but with precision, technology, and intelligence. By the close of 1942, the lesson for the Kriegsmarine was clear. The ocean was no longer theirs to dominate. The Wolfpack, once a symbol of fear and power, was now operating in a landscape where every action, every transmission, and every decision could be exploited. The Allies had turned the tables, and the tiny box known as Huff-Duff had become the silent arbiter of victory in the Atlantic. By 1942, Huff-Duff had moved beyond experimental deployment and into the operational backbone of Allied convoy defense. Its impact was best illustrated not by theory or general statistics, but by concrete engagements in which this unassuming device decisively altered the outcome of battles at sea. These case studies reveal how a shoebox-sized device, coupled with skilled operators and coordinated strategy, neutralized some of the Kriegsmarine's most formidable U-boat attacks. One of the earliest notable successes occurred during Convoy ON-15 in May 1942, en route from North America to Britain. 6 U-boats shadowed the convoy, preparing for coordinated night attacks. Previously, such convoys might have suffered catastrophic losses, but Huff-Duff operators aboard escort destroyers were able to detect and triangulate the faint high-frequency radio transmissions from the German submarines. Within hours, depth charges rained down on the U-boats, sinking at least one and forcing the others to withdraw. German crews were shocked. The Atlantic, once considered a sanctuary of stealth, had become a trap. Survivors recounted their disbelief at how the Allies seemed to anticipate their every move, highlighting the device's psychological as well as tactical impact. Another striking example took place during the ill-fated convoy PQ-17 to the Soviet Union in July 1942. Arctic convoy faced threats not only from U-boats but also from Luftwaffe bombers. Using Huff-Duff, Allied operators detected multiple U-boat transmissions attempting to coordinate attacks on the convoy's scattered formation. While the convoy suffered heavy losses due to air attacks, Huff-Duff allowed escorts to reroute some ships and intercept several submarines. By providing real-time intelligence on U-boat positions, Huff-Duff reduced potential losses and demonstrated its utility even in extreme conditions of weather and geography. In the North Atlantic near Iceland, Huff-Duff enabled dramatic success against Wolfpack formations in late 1942. Convoys HX-211 and SC-107, both heavily shadowed by German U-boats, benefited from early detection. Operators aboard corvettes plotted bearings of U-boat transmissions and relayed positions to destroyer escorts. In coordinated attacks, multiple submarines were located and engaged before they could strike the merchant vessels. Historian Michael Gannon notes in Operation Drumbeat that these operations marked a turning point. Huff-Duff had transformed the Atlantic from a hunting ground for U-boats into a battlefield where the hunter could quickly become the hunted. Huff-Duff's influence was not limited to convoy escort ships. Aircraft played a critical role. Long-range reconnaissance bombers, including Liberators and Catalinas, were equipped with portable direction-finding units, enabling them to patrol areas that had previously been safe havens for surfaced U-boats. When a submarine transmitted even briefly, the aircraft could detect the signal, approach the location, and attack or guide nearby escorts. The integration of air and sea assets created a layered defense that further limited the U-boat as operational freedom. The psychological impact on German crews cannot be overstated. In post-war interviews and memoirs, many U-boat officers expressed astonishment at how their transmissions, previously considered secure, had led Allied forces directly to them. Experienced commanders found themselves forced to choose between operational efficiency and survival. Some attempted to send messages in shorter bursts, vary frequencies, or remain submerged longer, but Huff-Duff's rapid detection capabilities often negated these adaptations. The Wolfpack tactic, once a symbol of invincibility, became increasingly risky. Huff-Duff also highlighted the importance of training and human expertise. The device's effectiveness relied on skilled operators capable of interpreting signal bearings quickly and accurately. A single error could result in missed opportunities or misdirected attacks. Recognizing this, the Royal Navy established specialized training programs, producing operators who could rapidly process incoming signals, coordinate with escort vessels, and direct countermeasures. This human-technical synergy magnified the device's impact far beyond its physical size. Beyond individual convoys, Huff-Duff shaped the broader strategic landscape of the Battle of the Atlantic. By late 1942, German U-boat losses were rising, while Allied shipping losses began to stabilize. Historian Clay Blair emphasizes that the combination of Huff-Duff, Enigma code breaking, improved escort strategies, and air patrol integration marked the beginning of the end for the U-boats' dominance. These victories were not merely tactical. They were symbolic, demonstrating that intelligence and innovation could neutralize a seemingly invincible weapon system. In summary, these case studies illuminate a crucial reality. Huff-Duff was not an abstract advantage, but a decisive instrument in multiple engagements, saving hundreds of merchant ships and thousands of lives. Each intercepted transmission, each triangulated position, and each successful counterattack showcased how a small, portable device could disrupt a major military force. The German U-boat fleet, once feared across the Atlantic, was now vulnerable to the very communications it relied upon. Through these engagements, the Allies proved that technology and strategy, combined with human skill, could turn the tide of war. Huff-Duff was more than a detection device. It was a psychological weapon, a tactical equalizer, and ultimately a symbol of the Allies' growing control over the Atlantic. By exploiting the U-boat's reliance on radio transmissions, the Allies demonstrated that no weapon, no matter how advanced, was invulnerable to ingenuity and adaptation. By 1943, the impact of the high-frequency direction finder, or Huff-Duff, was unmistakable. German U-boat crews, once the undisputed predators of the Atlantic, were now operating under constant threat. The device had shifted the balance of power in the ocean, turning a previously invisible and unpredictable enemy into a vulnerable target. Huff-Duff's legacy is not just measured in ships sunk or U-boats destroyed, but in the strategic transformation it enabled. The Allies could finally control the Atlantic shipping lanes with unprecedented precision and reliability. The technological brilliance of Huff-Duff lay in its simplicity and effectiveness. Compact enough to fit on escort ships, aircraft, and coastal stations, the system allowed operators to detect the direction of enemy transmissions within seconds. When combined with triangulation from multiple stations or mobile units, the Allies could pinpoint U-boat positions across hundreds of miles of ocean. These rapid detections enabled preemptive strikes and defensive maneuvers that had been impossible just a year earlier. A single brief transmission from a U-boat could now expose its location to a network of Allied forces, drastically reducing the risk to merchant convoys. Huff-Duff also exemplified the integration of technology and intelligence. Direction-finding data was cross-referenced with decrypted Enigma communications, providing commanders with both location and context. This synergy allowed Allied forces to anticipate U-boat movements rather than merely react to attacks. Convoys could be rerouted, escorts redeployed, and air patrols vectored with remarkable efficiency. It transformed raw information into actionable intelligence, reshaping naval strategy in real time. The psychological effects on German submariners were profound. Morale, once buoyed by the apparent invincibility of the Wolfpack tactic, began to waver. Commanders were forced to weigh operational necessity against survival risk. Radio silence could preserve stealth but compromised coordination. Transmissions enabled tactical control but carried mortal danger. U-boat crews, trained to rely on communication for success, now faced an invisible adversary that turned their strength into vulnerability. This constant tension eroded confidence and forced adaptations that reduced operational efficiency. Huff-Duff's legacy extended beyond immediate wartime effectiveness. It pioneered modern naval electronic warfare and demonstrated the value of integrating signals intelligence with operational planning. The principles established rapid detection, triangulation, integration with intelligence, and coordinated response would inform naval strategy long after World War II. Huff-Duff is a direct ancestor of today's advanced electronic surveillance and anti-submarine warfare systems, illustrating the enduring impact of a relatively simple but ingeniously applied technology. The operational lessons were also significant. German reliance on centralized command and coordinated Wolfpack attacks had initially provided tactical superiority, but the introduction of Huff-Duff forced decentralization and riskier operational behavior. U-boats were compelled to shorten radio transmissions, operate at irregular intervals, and adopt evasive patterns, reducing the efficiency of their attacks. By disrupting the fundamental processes that underpin German submarine strategy, Huff-Duff achieved a level of impact far greater than its modest physical size would suggest. Historians widely agree that Huff-Duff, in combination with Allied air power, convoy escort improvements, and code breaking, marked the turning point of the Battle of the Atlantic. German U-boat losses increased steadily from 1942 onward, while Allied shipping losses gradually declined. The device demonstrated that technological innovation could neutralize a previously dominant weapon system without the need for overwhelming firepower or massive fleets. In essence, the Allies had discovered a way to leverage intelligence and precision to counter brute force, a principle that would resonate in military strategy for decades. The human dimension of Huff-Duff's legacy is equally compelling. It showcased the importance of training, discipline, and analytical skill in modern warfare. Operators who could quickly interpret bearings, communicate with escorts, and coordinate strikes were as vital to success as the hardware itself. The device's effectiveness was amplified by human expertise, underscoring the interplay between technology and the people who wield it. Finally, Huff-Duff serves as a historical reminder of the unexpected ways innovation can reshape conflict. A small portable box, initially unremarkable in appearance, fundamentally changed naval warfare. German U-boat crews, who had dominated the Atlantic with stealth and tactical coordination, were humbled not by numbers, but by ingenuity. Their dominance, once unchallenged, was undermined by a device that transformed vulnerability into opportunity for the Allies. In the grand scope of World War II, Huff-Duff exemplifies how a single technological advance, properly applied, can alter the course of a campaign and save countless lives. The Atlantic, which had once been a graveyard for Allied shipping, gradually became a controlled theater of strategic advantage. Huff-Duff's legacy is therefore not just technical or tactical, it is emblematic of the power of knowledge, adaptation, and innovation to overcome even the most formidable adversaries. By 1943, the German U-boat threat had been fundamentally altered. Once feared as invincible predators of the Atlantic, the Wolfpacks now faced relentless detection, interception, and destruction. The agent of this transformation was not a massive battleship, not a carrier group, not a new type of torpedo, it was a shoebox-sized device, quietly humming aboard escort ships and aircraft, the high-frequency direction finder or Huff-Duff. The irony is profound. The very communications that had enabled German dominance had, in the end, betrayed them. The U-boat campaign had begun with a strategic vision of unassailable supremacy. By 1941, German submariners had sunk thousands of Allied merchant ships, creating fear, disruption, and near panic in Britain. Wolfpack tactics, coordinated through radio transmissions, appeared unstoppable. German commanders were confident, even arrogant, in the effectiveness of their strategy. Yet all of that success relied on a single assumption, that the vast Atlantic provided safety for radio communication. Huff-Duff shattered that assumption. The irony lies not only in the mechanism of defeat but in the scale of its impact. One small device, applied with intelligence and precision, rendered obsolete years of tactical mastery, technological advantage, and operational experience. The Wolfpack, which had once ruled the Atlantic with stealth and surprise, was now forced into constant caution. Submariners shortened transmissions, operated at irregular intervals, and abandoned previously reliable attack patterns. Each adjustment, each hesitation, was a tacit acknowledgement that their most trusted tool, radio communication, had become a lethal liability. The consequences were both immediate and long-lasting. From late 1942 onward, Allied convoys crossed the Atlantic with greater confidence, losses of merchant shipping gradually declined, and U-boat attrition rose sharply. Entire operational doctrines of the Kriegsmarine were undermined. Historians such as Clay Blair and Michael Gannon highlight that Huff-Duff, paired with code-breaking at Bletchley Park and improved convoy tactics, marked the turning point of the Battle of the Atlantic. The tide had shifted not through brute force, but through the application of knowledge, innovation, and strategic foresight. The story of Huff-Duff is also a story of human ingenuity triumphing over expectation. Engineers, operators, and commanders working in coordination transformed raw signals into actionable intelligence. It was not the size of the device that mattered, but the effectiveness of its use. Across thousands of miles of ocean, a device that could fit in a small cabin or be carried aboard aircraft determined the fate of fleets and the lives of thousands of sailors. The smallness of the technology belied its enormous strategic significance, a tiny box in an empire of the sea. There is a lesson in this irony. Warfare is often imagined as a contest of weapons, fleets, and firepower, but Huff-Duff demonstrates that innovation, intelligence, and adaptability can outweigh numerical or technological superiority. German submariners had relied on technical skill, coordination, and stealth, but they underestimated the power of a relatively simple device applied in concert with strategy and training. In the end, it was not courage or valor that won the Atlantic, but the ability to exploit vulnerability, anticipate enemy action, and implement precise countermeasures. German crews, aware of their shifting fortunes, faced both frustration and disbelief. Veteran officers, accustomed to confidence in their communications, were forced into silence, improvisation, and evasive tactics. The Wolfpack's aura of invincibility, carefully built through early victories, crumbled under the quiet, methodical application of Huff-Duff and intelligence-led operations. The Atlantic, which had once been the U-boat's kingdom, became a monitored and increasingly dangerous theater where survival depended on luck, skill, and restraint. Huff-Duff's legacy extends beyond the war itself. It laid the foundations for modern anti-submarine warfare and naval electronic surveillance. The principles rapid detection, triangulation, intelligence integration, and tactical coordination remain central to contemporary military operations. The device's effectiveness illustrates a timeless truth of conflict. The smallest innovation, applied wisely, can decisively shift the balance of power. As the Battle of the Atlantic drew to a close, the U-boat fleet, once the pride of the Kriegsmarine, had been humbled. Many of the most skilled commanders were lost, entire vessels destroyed, and operational doctrines permanently altered. The Allies, by contrast, had gained mastery over the oceans through strategy, technology, and foresight rather than sheer firepower. And at the heart of this transformation was the unassuming Huff-Duff, a tiny box that ended an empire of the sea. In retrospect, the story is almost paradoxical. The German U-boat, designed for stealth and dominance, was undone not by superior force, but by ingenuity, rapid innovation, and the clever application of information. Huff-Duff turned vulnerability into opportunity, silence into intelligence, and smallness into strategic power. It reminds us that in history, as in life, sometimes the most decisive tool is the one no one anticipates, the one small enough to be overlooked, yet capable of changing the course of events. The Battle of the Atlantic teaches a lasting lesson. Empires, no matter how powerful, can be toppled not only by brute strength, but by insight, innovation, and precision. And sometimes, the most profound victories come from the smallest, quietest instruments, like a tiny radio direction-finding box that transformed the war at sea and altered the fate of nations forever.